Welcome to the Geek in Review, the podcast focused on innovative and creative ideas in the legal profession. I'm Greg Lambert, and I am flying solo for a little bit. I'm hoping Marlene can jump on while we're doing the interview. If not, everyone is just stuck with me today. So I want to start this off by warning the audience that we're probably going to get pretty geeky on this week's show as we dive into some examples of what generative AI can do with specific legal tasks with the guests that we have this week. So we're really, really excited to have the co-founders of Paxton.AI, Tanguy Chau, CEO, and CTO, Chau Ulin. Glad you guys can both join us, and hopefully we can all geek out here. So Tanguy and Mike, welcome to the Geek in Review.
Thanks for having us, Greg. Really excited to be here and a big fan of the show.
Thanks.
Absolutely, Greg. It's such an honor. Thank you.
So it's great having you here. So Tanguy, let's start this off because not everyone may have heard of Paxton yet. Do you mind giving the audience a little bit of your background and the history of Paxton and why you and Mike decided to launch this new venture?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Greg, like every good company, the story of Paxton starts with the relationship between Mike and I as friends and as founders. Mike and I are AI engineers. We are enterprise experts. I did my master, my PhD, my MBA, all from MIT. Mike and I met a decade ago. We worked together while at McKinsey & Company. This is the largest management consulting firm. And we were strategic advisors to a lot of Fortune 500 companies. But really what sets us apart as legal tech founders is that both Mike and I have had deep understanding of legal and regulatory affairs. On my end, I spent almost a decade as an investment advisor in the venture capital industry, eventually serving as a chief compliance officer for an SEC and FINRA regulated firm. So it's really through this personal experience and our shared desire to help regulatory and legal professionals make sense of millions of laws, rules, and regulations that Paxton was born.
And Mike, a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. As Tanguy alluded to, we met and became friends while doing a stint at McKinsey & Company. And then after that, I made my way into the world of legal tech, working in data science for a company called RPX, which was involved in serving the general counsel's office of large tech firms on intellectual property matters. So worked there developing natural language processing algorithms, working with patent data. And then I was part of the founding team, along with a few other ex-McKinsey colleagues, of a company called Zesty.AI, where I was the founding AI engineer and head of AI for Zesty, where we focused on building enterprise AI models for the U.S. Property insurance industry. So we were actually the first AI model approved by the California Department of Insurance for use in underwriting and pricing of property insurance in that state. So worked very closely with regulators there. And then work closely with regulators in 10 other states to get our AI models approved. So bring a deep experience in AI to this space, and we're really excited about the possibilities of applying generative AI in the legal context.
Let's say we're riding up the elevator together, so I'll let one of you pick who wants to give the speech here. But if you were going to introduce me to Paxton and what it does, what's the elevator speech that you give?
Yeah, I'll volunteer for that. And
okay.
Paxton is really a generative AI assistant that is built for legal and regulatory compliance professionals. That's really what it does. And unlike other assistant, it is really trained and built from the ground up. We have painfully collected millions and millions of regulation, rules, statutes, and use this material to train a very accurate uh, legal AI assistant.
And Mike, I wanted to cover some, because usually when people create something like this, there's some problem that you're set out to solve. And so, can you? And I know that a lot of what you're doing, and you've elaborated on in the media, is about the biggest pain points and inefficiencies that you see in the legal sector. And so, can you elaborate on some of those pain points that you're trying to solve there at Paxton?
Absolutely, Greg. A lot of this is kind of born out of our experience in the legal and regulatory space. Paxton is really designed to take a lot of the pain points away with regards to legal and regulatory research. Having done a lot of regulatory work in the insurance sector, insurance is one of those areas that is not regulated at the federal level. It's actually regulated at each of the individual 50 state levels. So if you're a national player, like some of the companies I worked with at my prior company, we worked with companies like Berkshire Hathaway, Farmers, AAA. You have to figure out the different regulatory regimes of each one of those 50 states. And then talking to legal professionals, this can be a pretty daunting, tedious, and very labor-intensive task. What we've done with Paxton is we have all of the laws, rules, and regulations from not only the federal level, but also each of the 50 states. So one particular use case that's been gaining a lot of traction with our clients in financial services or the insurance industry is conducting 50 state surveys in a matter of minutes. So you can simply ask Paxton for what the regulatory regime is on a particular topic in each of the states and get a response back that you can then use as a starting point for your research, rather than spending a lot of money doing this, or we've heard that these things can take months to complete.
Yeah, I can verify that. It takes a long time to pull those together, and so now I think a lot of partners are going to have to figure out new projects to give summer associates, because that's a big task that a lot of summer associates get is, take this issue and give me a 50-state survey. Now, a smart associate would then do it in the 10 minutes that it would take, and then wait around for a couple of days, and then hand it in to them, so that it didn't seem like it only took 10 minutes.
Absolutely. And we want to empower smart associates here at Paxton.
There we go. So, Tanguy, you recently wrote an article that was in Forbes, and it was called "Unlocking the 10x Lawyer: How Generative AI Can Transform the Legal Landscape." And in the article, you discuss how generative AI can help lawyers become more efficient by automating low-value tasks. So I think most of us probably have some examples, but I want to see if you can provide some examples of low-value legal work that you specifically think can be automated with AI, and how much time do you estimate that this could actually save a lawyer, say, even on a weekly basis?
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. Let me start by defining what we mean by the 10x lawyers. And what we mean here is that with the proper tool, with the proper support, a lawyer can be 10 times as efficient as a lawyer that doesn't have access to tools like Paxton. And so, let me share in this piece, right? We analyze a survey that Wilson Sonsini, one of the largest law firm in the world, did. And that survey explains that 67% of in-house lawyers feel buried in low-value, highly repetitive work. And let's give some examples here, right? You look at an M&A process, and a law firm might need to look at the sales contracts of thousands and thousands of vendors and go the through the language of all of these sales contracts. And it's very repetitive. They have to look clause by clause over all of these documents and identify variations in the language that is being used. It takes hundreds of hours to review each of these contracts. This is a perfect use case for an AI agent such as Paxton. A second example, for example, would be, when we talked about 50-state surveys and looking and reading vast knowledge databases or vast amount of information. It requires reading through thousands of pages just to identify and find the critically important information that is relevant to the case. Paxton, for example, is able to read through 30 million pages of legislature. It has perfect memory, perfect recollection, and an accurate retrieval of the most mundane but critically important information. And so what we think is, this is what Paxton is outstanding for, handling very mundane, very boring, repetitive work, and to free attorneys to focus on the high value work, the highly engaging, the client facing work that all attorneys and all lawyers love to do.
So I want to ask you, because we had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, and Marlene has joined us as well. Hi, Marlene.
Hi, Marlene.
Hey, Marlene.
Tanguy, I did want to follow up on that. We had a guest on, I believe it was last week, that talked about how you can structure the generative AI, even when it's trained on, legal specific things, that because of its ability to be creative, it could take liberties with quotes on it, change things around. And so he talked about some ways that they did the multi-token, I forget how, multi-token authorization or multi-token something, but basically where material that is like quoted stays the same so that you don't get any type of hallucination. What are you guys?
They'd link words, so it wouldn't be just like separate words. They'd link it so that things wouldn't get separated, and it's less of a chance for hallucination.
Yeah,
I think that's how it worked.
Yeah, and especially in legal, where you want to be very specific and precise when you're quoting legal materials. So how are you looking at, if I'm going to cite something that I am assured that the answer that I'm given matches what's in the documents? Do you link to the documents, or do you have something else going on in the back end to kind of make sure that you're getting very good answers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a very important problem that we spend a lot of time thinking about. How do you actually do this accurately? There are many different ways that one can approach this problem, both from a technical approach, different techniques, machine learning techniques that one can use. What we have focused on and what has resonated with our users is very accurate sourcing. So for the use of AI, it's really important that the user trusts the answer. And there's a saying that says, trust but verify. And this is what Paxton is really good at. Every sentence, every word, every paragraph has a footnote that you can verify where the information is coming from, directly the source text, the source regulation, and it takes you to the source of the information. So this is our approach. Our approach is the ability to very quickly verify that the answer is given. Because eventually, it is still on the user's responsibility to check and make sure that the information that the tool provides is accurate when they file a motion, for example.
And is it a footnote or is it like a reference in the text?
It's an actual citation in the text, and folks are free to check it out for themselves at Paxton.AI. We're offering free beta access right now, but you can actually when you get a response, every response comes with a footnote, as Tanguy was saying, and that is a link direct back to the primary source material. So you can link to the regulation or the statute or the rule or materials that you upload yourself to Paxton, so you can verify what the system is saying is accurate.
Yeah.
And it'll go back to that specific area for reference.
Yeah, it won't just link you to the entire.
Give me a section of the tax code.
Yep, just an entire chapter. Yep.
There you go.
Woo!
Yeah,
There's my weekend.
yeah, I've actually played around with it. It's really cool, and thank you guys for letting it. During this phase of you guys launching, letting everyone take a look at it for free, because not everybody's doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we're a very feedback driven culture here at Paxton, and we'd love and thank you for testing out the tool. We'd love for your audience to take a look and let us know what you think. We're always on the hunt for ways to improve it.
How specifically are you designing Paxton's use of artificial intelligence to augment the capabilities of lawyers? What is unique in the way that you're leveraging AI now that may not have been possible just a year or two ago?
Sure. Yeah, happy to take this one. So I've been in the field of AI for almost my whole career, over a decade now, and we really designed Paxton with the needs and workflows of an attorney in mind, and really taking advantage of the new capabilities that generative AI offers today. And if folks want to get a sense of how that's different, you can really see it for yourself. Just take a look at what's available. When you do autocomplete on your phone or autocomplete on Gmail, you would just get a phrase or a couple words as a suggested next thing to say, and that was kind of the state of the art for a while. But today, and you can experience this with yourself for yourself on Paxton. We can now generate entire documents based on really accurate source materials. We have models at Paxton that can take into account like the context of about a book worth of material at a time, versus what we were dealing with just a few years ago, where it was like, what's the next word that I want to text someone. So I think that is kind of the change in how AI has what AI systems are available today that's really enabled these types of use cases.
So you guys have a really good presence on Medium, and I think you're doing a really good job of kind of reaching out beyond the Twitter, LinkedIn. Although you guys do a great job on those as well, but on Medium you write some very specific and interesting ways about how to use Paxton.AI. And so we want to go over just a few examples of some of those articles that we've read through. And Tanguy, I'm going to start with you. There was an article on Paxton's drafting capabilities, and in the article it mentioned generating documents from templates. So can you expand more on how lawyers can, customize those templates, and do they have some flexibility to develop templates tuned to their own specific needs?
Yes, absolutely. I think let's remember, right, Paxton really is an intelligence layer that sits atop a different knowledge databases. And so you can really ask Paxton to perform different tasks, to adjust and to adapt. You can use the curated database that we collect and we maintain and we monitor, such as, the federal and state statutes, rules, regulations, and more to come, obviously. But you can also ask Paxton's intelligence and apply it to your own knowledge databases. And you do that by simply connecting it either to your document management system or uploading your own set of documents or cases or your own templates and the language that you want Paxton to use. And so you can then ask Paxton to read, and Paxton will adopt your template and respond in the style and in the style, and then draft following, draft motion, drafts legal memos following your custom firm templates. And so this is really how we've made Paxton easy to find for our users to fine tune to their specific knowledge as well as their specific templates.
And just to follow up on that one, because I can hear my my IT security guy screaming right now. So how do you work with firms, with lawyers, with your users on making sure that information is secure, and that someone else won't be able to get access to that?
Yeah, so we have a very deep background in serving large enterprises. So both Tanguy and I served very security conscious Fortune 500 companies in our prior life at McKinsey. And when we were developing AI models for the insurance industry, you can imagine those companies also had very strict security requirements as well. So we really took that experience and that knowledge of what organizations care about, and that's built into the design of Paxton. So we meet all the requirements for SOC 2, and we work with security teams at law firms all the time to understand their individual requirements and really tailor Paxton's security settings and data retention policies to meet the needs of the firms that we're working with.
So, as law librarians, the article on Paxton's Boolean search composer caught our eye,
Yeah.
and I think there are still librarians out there that say Boolean is the best way to search, and that like natural language is kind of the death of the ability to get really down and granular in your search. And while expert searchers are very good at this sort of thing, sometimes more casual searchers are not. Yeah. So, what are some of the examples of complex legal research questions that the search composer can simplify that lawyers and maybe more casual users struggle with? How does the explanation help lawyers learn in the process?
Yeah. Yes, this one is a very, very popular feature within the Paxton platform, and it's a feature that was requested by our community. I think it speaks to like the how Mike and I are thinking about building a very user and consumer centric company first. So for the audience, we built a a Boolean composer. And what we heard is a lot of our users didn't enjoy or didn't like writing Boolean queries. They're complicated, they're unintuitive.
What? Shocking.
It's shocking, right?
Yeah,
But
this natural language thing is just a fad, you know.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right?
but Marlene, I mean, it's so true, right? We were forcing users to adopt the language that machines use, right? It's not like you and I like speak using Boolean, right? We speak using natural language. And so instead, we thought that instead of asking users to adopt the language of machines, we reverse this process and we had Paxton learn the language of users instead. And so, instead of coming up with complex Boolean expressions, our users have the ability to very simply explain in plain English what do they want from Paxton. And it might be retrieving all of the cases for over the last 10 years for a particular issue. And, and if and when needed, Paxton can transform these requests into clear Boolean expressions that the users can then use in tools like LexisNexis and Westlaw. And then Paxton will also explain how this expression was built stage by stage, what each of the Boolean queries is used for. And so it makes it very easy for a user to draft a Boolean query, but also adjust it, adapt it, and takes a lot of the mystery out of Boolean searches.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's interesting because
definitely welcome.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things and I know we do it here at my firm, and I'm sure other firms do the exact same thing, is like if somebody's searching on Westlaw and they're having problems, we suggest that they call one of the research attorneys at Westlaw that helps them basically create a search structure for that. So. I don't want to run the people out of a job up in Eagan, Minnesota, but sometimes you don't necessarily want to talk to somebody. You get something that you just want to figure out on your own. And I like the fact that you're not just giving an answer, but you're actually explaining how you're getting to that result, which. Maybe that will teach some of the attorneys how Boolean works. So,
Absolutely, we're just a very. I mean, this as Tanguy mentioned, this was just a suggestion from one of our users that we then took and adapted to the platform just to make the lives of attorneys just a little bit easier. So we're glad folks are getting use out of it.
And the transparency builds trust. So that's good.
Absolutely. So Mike, there was another piece that featured document compare, and it talks about what's the logic behind the document, difference in highlighting. So does it just look at the wording of the document itself, or is there some kind of more semantic analysis going on that's identifying the substantive differences in the documents when you're comparing them?
Great question. This feature of Paxton is really meant to go beyond just like the redlining or track changes that folks might be used to. It's not limited to just keywords or sequences of words in a document. It actually looks at the meaning and intent of the text in the document. So you can use it to say compare two NDAs. Maybe you have a template NDA that's been approved and one from a vendor that you want to understand what their similarities and differences are. And Paxton can really quickly, in just a matter of seconds, highlight what the substantive differences between those two documents are. And it doesn't matter if those clauses are in a different order or if you use slightly different language to describe something. Paxton's able to just tell you, this particular clause covering this particular issue is present in one document, but not in another. And that really can save folks a lot of time in what used to be a pretty tedious exercise. Other clients are using it for, say, marketing collateral review. So if you have a set of requirements or a regulation that covers your marketing material, you can just plug that into the document compare tool and see if the document you're evaluating, like a web page or a piece of print collateral, complies with the requirements that you want to evaluate. And it just saves a lot of time versus what folks were used to doing before.
So you seem to have a little fun with the topics you use for your articles by looking at real-world examples of how Paxton can be used on things like the congressional UFO hearings or the ability to quickly go through most of the recent indictment of former President Trump. How is that marketing working? I mean, are you getting a lot of response from that?
Yeah, we like to have a bit of fun, and I think demonstrating a lot of these capabilities on topics that are well topical and in the public consciousness helps really bring home the value. Even though folks will probably not use this to analyze a UFO hearing, they'll probably use it to
You never know.
Yeah.
a lot of UFO attorneys in your audience, Greg and Marlene.
Yeah.
We're going to find out.
It's definitely a growth industry, so we'll see how it goes. Well, speaking of the congressional UFO hearings, in your article on that, the analysis mentions being able to instantly process a lengthy transcript. So what's the key to Paxton's natural language processing that enables such a quick turnaround time on that? And how do you train the AI model to handle that large amount of text?
Yeah, and we wanted to pick this more fun example, but what we've heard from users is there's a real pain point about working with video content, whether it's an agency hearing, a congressional hearing at the federal or state level, or depositions or other types of long form content that you may be pressed for time and you have to really get the key takeaways from it rather quickly. And what really enables this is Paxton's ability, like we discussed earlier, Paxton's ability to understand a large amount of information at one time. In the generative AI space, this is what's known as the context window. So the amount of information that Paxton is going to consider before providing you an answer. And as opposed to some of our competitors, Paxton is able to take in a lot more information at once. And we really see the returns on that in terms of the quality of our answers and in terms of the quality of the responses Paxton generates. So Paxton's trained on legal data, and it really becomes a very flexible tool. And so it doesn't matter if we're applying it to UFO hearings or something a bit more serious. We can use this tool in a wide variety of areas.
When Paxton does analysis on these large documents or transcripts, what specifically does the summarization capacity focus on extracting? I mean, are you using, semantic? It's the amount of information submitted generally? Is it the amount of references of a particular thing? So, does it identify Or does it specifically, identify people, charges, key evidence, quotes? How does it work?
Yeah,
Tell us your
and
secrets.
Marlene,
Yeah.
I think this is what's really special about this generation of AI tools, right? The flexibility that it has. So, for example, if talking about the documents of the Trump indictment, you can use Paxton to summarize the indictment generally. You can ask Paxton to identify which people were charged. What were they charged with? What are the key evidence? What are some of the specific quotes? And I think this is something that wouldn't have been possible a few years ago with prior generations of AI systems. But really, generative AI has an understanding of the intent behind the queries and an intent of the source documents, and that's what makes this so powerful, especially in the legal field, is that it's no longer searching for words, it's no longer searching for numbers or pattern. It really is searching for what is the intent of the user, and this is something that users have tremendous flexibility in how it's being used.
So we kind of have danced around this a little bit, but there's kind of a common phrase that's or saying that's being said, and that is that the generative AI tools like this aren't going to replace lawyers specifically, but it's going to give a significant advantage to lawyers who leverage the AI tools against those who don't. And so as we probably see this happening more and more as AI tasks take on more of some of the base work that lawyers do. How do you see the day-to-day work of a lawyer changing, and do you have any suggestions or thoughts on some of the skill sets that the AI enhanced lawyer is going to need as far as a skill set or even a specialization?
Sure. And I think this is just another tool, and I think that's what really makes us human is the ability to leverage and use tools that can actually make us more efficient and enhance our work. Just think about the switch from looking up materials in a book or a library versus now you have Westlaw and LexisNexis. You can think about this as kind of a new iteration or wave of that. So I think really partnering with these tools and learning how to utilize them will be critically important for attorneys in the future. But those things that are really kind of uniquely human, higher level strategic thinking about how different pieces of a problem fit together, and really interacting and guiding clients will be really, they're important skills today, and I think those are going to be even more important in the future. But hopefully you don't have to bang your head against the wall writing a lot of Boolean queries going forward.
Damn. Well, speaking of attorneys in the future,
Yeah.
Mike and Tanguy, we ask all of our guests our crystal ball question. So please take a peek in the future for us and let us know what you see as a change or challenge in the legal industry over the next 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, happy to go first. I think it's notoriously hard to predict the future, but I'll give it a shot. One of the professions that has really readily adopted the use of generative AI, I think a lot more quickly than a lot of the others has been software engineering or software development. And I think if you want to understand a bit of what the future is going to look like, we can see how this profession has adapted to generative AI. And I think there was a study out of Microsoft around software engineers, software developers that utilize generative AI tools are up to 60% more productive than their peers that do not. And just thinking about the way I code when I still have time to code, and our team at Paxton, when they're coding utilizing these tools, it's really dramatically changed their workflow from a year ago, and they're a lot more efficient, a lot more productive. And I think we'll see a lot of this in the legal profession. You'll have an assistant like Paxton that will make you more effective, more productive, and allow you to get back to, give you more time in your day back, and allow you to focus that on higher value add sorts of things. And I think you'll see these AI assistants proliferate, not just in legal, but in other professions like medical as well.
Yep. And Tanguy?
And I think to look 10, 20 years into the future, I start by drawing inspiration and looking into what happened in the past. And so I have there's a fun analogy that I think we can learn a lot from. And so in the 70s, I don't know if you've seen that study, but Scientific American did a study on locomotion across species. And so they calculated the amount of energy that was required to travel a given distance. And so, the study concluded that the condor was the most efficient animal, and expends the least amount of energy to go from point A to point B. And, on the other hand, humans spend a lot of energy to perform the same task. And we're kind of in the bottom half of efficiency. But what was really interesting about the study is that it also measured the efficiency of a human on a bicycle. And surprisingly, when a human is aided by a machine, they expended the least amount of energy to perform the same task and was even more efficient than the condors. And so I think this is a really good analogy of what's going to happen in the next 10, 20 years. There are a lot of tasks that we perform today where we're really not very efficient. And AI assistants such as Paxton's, I see them as the bicycles of tomorrow. You combine a human with a machine, and we invented the most efficient way to perform a task while minimizing the energy spent. And that's the true power of innovation. And whoever adopts AI tools like Paxton first will do the same work faster, better, and more efficiently.
Mike, I wanted to make a quick comment on your analysis with the software engineering field and law. And this is just a personal anecdote, and that is, so I've been using the generative AI tools out there to help me kind of relearn some programming. And so it's been, I would say you measure it in that it makes me much more efficient because it can give me a great place to start. Say I'm doing a Python script, so it can give me something to start with, and I get to a good result much faster. But I will also say that on the flip side is then that motivates me to now take on additional projects that I would have never have done before. So, I just wonder, do you see that in the future for lawyers is that, it may only take me now 10 minutes to get to, something that usually took me, 2 hours to do before. And do you see the same analogy with say, well, now I can take on, these other things that I didn't, wouldn't have taken on before as well? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great example, and there's a lot of great stories of folks like yourself being enabled by this new set of tooling. Um, you can look at what happened with the spreadsheet a few decades ago. In the time before Microsoft Excel, the bookkeeping profession used to be a lot more prevalent. But after we made the transition from physical spreadsheets to software-based spreadsheets, we saw a dramatic increase in the number of accountants. And you can think of accounting as it's a more higher level form of that group of work than bookkeeping. And I think something similar will happen with the legal profession, with other professions when it comes to generative AI. You're able to dedicate a lot more time, whether it's personal time to activities you enjoy or activities that are more higher value add, more strategic in nature, and hopefully that's inspiring for folks, and you get to spend a lot more time on things that you actually like doing versus just trying to make do with inadequate tools.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, Mike and Tanguy from Paxton, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us and tell us more about your work there at Paxton.AI.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Marlene.
And of course, thanks to all of you, our listeners, for taking the time to listen to the Geek in Review podcast. If you enjoy the show, share it with a colleague. We'd love to hear from you, so reach out to us on social media. I can be found on LinkedIn and at GayBauerM on X. And also look for the Geek in Review on Threads.
Yeah. So, and I can be reached at LinkedIn or Glambert on X or Glambert Pod on Threads or every place else. Plus, we are launching our Geek and Review channel on YouTube. So,
yes,
look
very
for
exciting.
that one as well. So, Tanguy and Mike, if someone wants to learn more about Paxton or reach out to you, where can you guys be found online?
Yeah, if folks want to learn more, just check out Paxton.AI. And right now, as we mentioned before, we have free access to Paxton, so people can really experience it for themselves. Just sign up with an email at Paxton.AI. And if you want to reach Tanguy and I, you can just send us an email at hello@Paxton.AI. And as we said, we're really hungry for feedback on Paxton, or if you guys want to chat about AI or anything else, we're always happy to.
And listeners, you can also leave us a voicemail on our Geek and Review hotline at 713-487-7821. And as always, the music you hear is from Jerry David DeSica. Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, Marlene, we'll talk to you later.
Okay, see ya.
For those of you watching on YouTube, we got a little extra for you that we're not going to have on the audio podcast. And so I asked the guys coming out of left field here to give us an example of something that they think is cool. So I think, Tanguy, you're going to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me show my screen.
This is Greg's way of making sure the software works.
That's right. So, quality control.
Yes.
So
There we go.
So there goes. So this is the Paxton platform, and so you can see you can query curated databases here, laws, rules, and regulations. You can add videos or audio or deposition transcripts or connect it to your databases. You can use a document comparison features. This is the famous Boolean composer that we talked about. And so you see we connect to these sources, starting with the administrative code of Alabama all the way to the Wyoming state statutes. And so if, for example, I am an investment manager and I want to understand what are the rules to sell under Rule 144. This would be I select my source. Here I'm going to query the Code of Federal Regulations. We're working on an update where Paxton searches through the entire body of knowledge. And then I simply hit submit. And what happens when we click submit is Paxton reads very quickly and very rapidly, but very accurately through the 30 million documents and growing that are in the database. So you can, it does a semantic match around the language that is here. So the rules to sell under 144, and then retrieves the relevant information. And so you can see Paxton writing, and I'm going to increase my screen here. You can see the response that Paxton gives and how every sentence that we have is properly footnoted. When you click on the reference material, you see where it pulled the information from. And so here we're connected directly to the Securities and Exchange Commission. We pulled this information from Title 17, and if you click, you see the actual language of that Paxton used to provide the answer. So this is an example of what we do for a body of knowledge that we curate. In this version, you can create a new folder, a new matter, and then drag and drop thousands of documents here, and then adapt and adapt the knowledge base that Paxton has to your needs. You can also upload videos and see, for example, this is a video that that of the joint hearing about President Biden's border policies in Arizona, and you can query those videos. We have like a quick summary that we provide. And then you have a document comparison and a Boolean search tool, such as, for example, if I wanted to look at, what are all of the rulings, please find me all of the court rulings needed in the last 10 years for someone that illegally operated a motorboat in the state of Hawaii, for example, and I want it in Boolean query to use in a platform like Westlaw. This is the search query that we would provide, and this is how the search query is built. And so the user can simply just copy the search string and then use them on their platforms. So that's that's a quick overview of what Paxton, the Paxton platform.
Awesome. Well,
very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that very much. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity.